This joint meeting of the Marion County and Clackamas County Board of Commissioners. This Zoom meeting is in line, is the time and place designated by the Secretary of State for filing the vacancy in the Oregon Senate District 20. I am Clackamas County Chair Tudy. I will chair this meeting. I'd like to start out by calling for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it
stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, and thank you for the flag, Christina. We have 5 commissioners present from Clackamas, and we have 2 of the 3 commissioners present from Marion. I'll ask the clerk to call the roll.
All right, Marion County Commissioner Danielle Bethel.
Here.
Marion County Commissioner Colm Willis.
Here.
Clackamas County Commissioner Sonia Fisher.
Here.
Clackamas County Commissioner Paul Saffis, excuse me.
Here.
Sorry about that. Clackamas County Commissioner Martha Schrader.
Here.
Clackamas County Commissioner Mark Scholl.
Here.
And Clackamas County Chair Tudy Smith.
Sure. Thank you very much, Danielle. I'd like to introduce our staff for the support of today's meeting. Our clerk today, as you see her, is Christina Terwilliger, and thank you. Our legal counsel today is Clackamas County Counsel Stephen Mack. Also joining us are the Marion County Administrative Officer Jan Fritz, and did I see Marion County Counsel Jane Vito on?
Yes.
She could be joining. Okay, good, wonderful. So we're well represented. Before we discuss the procedures here today, I'd like to welcome the 3 nominees chosen by the Republican Party to replace former Senator Alan Olson, and they are Mr. Steve Bates, Mr. Bill Kennemer, and Mr. John J. Lee Jr. It has been decided that these 3 nominees will speak in alphabetical order. I will now outline the procedures for today's meeting that were highlighted on the approved agenda provided to commissioners prior to this meeting. In a few minutes, I'll open up the meeting for public comment period over Zoom. This section will be limited to 20 minutes. During this period, members of the public may provide comments over Zoom for up to 1 minute each. Members of the public should start by providing their names and addresses. Our clerk will instruct you to raise your hands when the time comes. Once we're done with public comment, we'll move into the opening statements by each candidate. Each nominee will have an opportunity to make a 2-minute opening statement. The nominees will be called upon one at a time to do so in alphabetical order. Once opening statements are completed, we will move to the Q&A portion of the meeting. Each nominee will have 2 minutes to answer each
And congratulations, Al.
Thank you. You're welcome.
I went ahead and muted Jan Fritz.
Thank you. Each nominee will have 2 minutes to answer each question. We will vary the order of the candidates' answers with each question. There will be 2 questions posed by each board. Questions will be posed by Commissioner Bethel, Commissioner Schrader, Commissioner Willis, and Commissioner Scholl in that order. This is not a public hearing, so no testimony will be received during or after the Q&A portion. Once the QA portion is completed, each candidate will be called upon to provide a 2-minute closing statement, again made in alphabetical order. Clerk Terwilliger will keep the time for all answers and statements. After closing statements, we will recess if needed, and it's up to you, commissioners, if you want to recess or keep going. Following that, we will begin deliberations. All commissioners will have a chance to comment during deliberations. After comments are made, I will call for a vote. The votes will be made in alphabetical order, ending with Vice Chair Bethel and myself. As provided by the Secretary of State, each county commissioner will have 21 votes, and each Marion County commissioner will have 0.33 votes. The votes are weighted to reflect the share of voters or electors in each Senate District 20 living within each county. The votes will be tallied and recorded. State law says that a plurality is needed to appoint, so keep that in mind. It is not a majority that's needed, but a plurality. The person who gets the most votes will be appointed. If no one receives a plurality, that is, if 2 or more candidates are tied in votes, then I will call for another vote at that time. We will keep doing this until there is a winner. I may call for additional deliberations if a plurality does not emerge. And with that, I'm going to open up the meeting to the public comment period. This section will be limited to 20 minutes in total. Clerk Terwilliger?
Thank you, Chair Smith. Now is the time for public comment. For those on Zoom who wish to give public comment, please use the raise hand feature indicating you'd like to do so. If you're on the phone, please hit *7 or *9, I'm sorry. And per Chair Smith, you have 1 minute to speak, at which point I will cut in. And also please provide your name and area of residence at the start of your comment. Looks like I have a couple hands raised already. So we will go ahead and start with Tony Miller. Tony Miller, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 1 minute. Tony, are you there? I am not hearing Tony.
Christina, if he can get on, we'll go back to him.
Okay, perfect.
Because
Tony,
I think we have to allow for technical difficulties, okay?
Perfect.
Thanks.
I'll go ahead and leave Tony at the top. Next up, we'll do Mike Abete. Mike, go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Mike Abate. I live at 1236 Northeast Market Drive, Fairview, Oregon, and I've worked directly with Steve Bates for over 2 years. And we've worked together on the development of a new Vietnam War memorial on the Oregon State Capitol grounds. And in that time, Steve has demonstrated amazing, strong leadership skills that will serve him well as a public servant and specifically as the next senator. I'd like to just outline some of those things. He has outstanding listening skills, consensus building skills, high personal integrity, a vision for Oregon's future, perseverance, persistence, and positivity. I have no doubt that Steve Bates will be an outstanding senator for the residents of District 20 and also for the entire state of Oregon. Thank you for this opportunity to testify.
Perfect. I will go ahead and thank you so much, Mike. Move on to the next. We will try Tony Miller again. Tony, if you can go ahead and unmute yourself. We will come back to you, Mr. Miller. We'll go ahead and try Tyler Smith. Tyler Smith, if you can unmute yourself, you would have 1 minute.
Thank you. I'm Tyler Smith. I'm from Canby. Thank you, commissioners. Thank you, Chair Smith. I've been a city councilor in both the cities of Canby and Hubbard, and the chair of both planning commissions in both cities. I know all 3 of these candidates very well, and they're both 3 good men. But I'm asking you today to appoint John Lee as our next senator. I'm asking you to appoint John Lee because he has the best mix of the 3 most relevant factors for this. He has the legislative experience in politics. He has strong community support from all over in this county, and he has business support. I've worked very closely with John Lee for about 15 years, and I can tell you personally that he's got extensive knowledge of both the local legislative issues of our cities, the county matters, and the legislative matters. I've personally lobbied with him and been down to the legislature and been super involved with the legislature with John Lee.
Okay,
John
Mr. Smith,
also has extremely strong community support due to his
Mr.
leadership
Smith?
and his business expertise, where he's been engaged and been a leader the last
Smith,
15
we've hit our
years.
1 minute mark. Thank you, Mr. Smith. And then next up, we'll allow the Young Republicans of Oregon. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself and you will have 1 minute. Oh, and if you could give us your name and area of residence, please.
Hi, yeah, my name is James Heeb. I'm from Canby, Oregon. I also, as with Tyler Smith, I respect and like all three of the candidates. We're going to be in good hands either which way, but I would prefer if we got John Lee in office. He's been constantly active for the state party. He's been active at state level, congressional district level, and county level. He's also taken the initiative to get the ball rolling on some of the projects that Alan Olson had already started. And so I feel like that he could walk into office and hit the ground running. And yeah, so good luck, John.
Thank you, Mr. Heed. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. We have Lori Kimmel. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 1 minute.
Yes. I am familiar with all the candidates. They're all very good men, but I prefer John Lee because of his legislative experience as a being lobbying. I believe that he will listen to the constituents' different needs. He will be a steady voice for Clackamas County, and he will get rid of some of the ridiculous bills that are in the legislature right now. And also, I am a veteran, and he listens to veterans, and he will continue the work that Alan Olson has done for veterans. And my residence is South Clackamas County.
Thank you so much, Lori. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. Greg Parker, go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 1 minute.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks, Commissioners. Greg Parker, Canby, Oregon. For the last 3 years, I've been on your board of directors for the County Fair Board, and for the last 11 years serving as a Canby City Council member. The one thing that I'd like to point out is that for me right now, I need someone who can be an advocate, who can put me in touch with state agencies, who has a proven record of constituent help. If I've got a problem with the Department of Transportation, I need to talk to them today. And Bill Kennemer consistently over the years has gotten back to me the next day, sometimes the same day. So as Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Schrader know, there's a bit of a learning curve down there, and Bill's been doing this for a number of years. So I would certainly welcome his participation in the Oregon Senate again.
Thank you, Mr. Parker. We'll go ahead and move on. Rob Wheeler, go ahead and unmute yourself and you have 1 minute.
Hello, I'd say we're blessed to have all three of these applicants, but I think Bill Kennemer's experience is invaluable. And as was said earlier by another, he can hit the ground running. He served Clackamas County and Oregon for almost 30 years, if not 30 years, and will continue to do so well if appointed. I was mayor of Happy Valley when Bill was serving on the Clackamas County Commission. I felt he served our city and our county well, and he certainly served me well. Always accessible, always available. I used to consult him when he was in the House, when I had legislative issues, because his was a voice I trusted.
Thank you, Mr. Wheeler. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. Stan Pulliam, you have 1 minute if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
Hello, Commissioners. Sandy Mayor Stan Pulliam here. So at first, I'm speaking on behalf of myself, not as our council. I too know all three members before you today and speak highly of all three. Just wonderful men. I am here to testify, though, on behalf of Steve Bates. Like many of you as commissioners, I know you've interacted with him. He's known as Mr. Boring to many of us through his works of Boring Dole Day, the Vietnam War Memorial there, his statewide efforts, I've walked the halls of Salem and in the Capitol with them. I've seen how members of both parties interact with Steve and deal with Steve as he tries to get things done and gets things done and does for the people of his community. There's one word that really drives Steve Bates, and that's Clackamas. That's community. And I know he'll be somebody that no matter the political tensions in Salem, will always put our neighbors and our community first out here in Clackamas County and around. So thank you, everybody, and thank you, all of you, for your service.
Thank you, Stan. We'll go ahead and move on to the next. Ben Edel, you have 1 minute if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself.
My name is Ben Edel from Free Oregon, and I've been blessed with having a personal relationship with John Lee since early 2017, and I know him well. But up until November 18th of last year, I was a small business owner with multiple cafes in the city of Portland, and I'm one of thousands of other business owners who've lost everything this year. And what's happened in our state is a tragedy of epic proportions. And right now, more than ever, we need people, the people of Oregon need leaders with the faith and the strength to push back against this unprecedented government overreach and hypocrisy. And John's one of those leaders. He intimately understands what the business owners have gone through and what we need to build a strong economy. He's a connector. He'll bring people to support a freer, more prosperous Oregon. But most importantly, he's a man of integrity. And I trust him to do the right thing, regardless of the pressures that may impose on him. And I strongly urge the commission to do the right thing and appoint John Lee to Senate District 20.
Thank you very much. I'm going to move on to Joanna Harbor. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Yes, I'm Joanna Harbor, and I ran for U.S. Congress 3rd Congressional District. And as part of my due diligence for the PCPs, I sent questions to all candidates, and both John Lee and Steve Bates answered them very well. They've both been deeply rooted in the community and know what the citizens of Senate District 20 would want. And so I believe that John Lee and Steve Bates would both make excellent candidates. And I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Going to move on. We have Ginny Van Loo. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself, and you have 1 minute.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Chair Smith, Vice Chair Bethel, and commissioners. My name is Ginny Van Loo, and I live in Jennings Lodge. I don't know if you know where that is, but it's south of Milwaukee. I've known Bill Kinnemer for many years and know that he's experienced not only in the Senate, but in the House and as being a former county commissioner. Bill's worked in both the minority and the majority and knows how to work just about under any conditions. He's a consensus builder. He's worked across the aisle and has worked on many committees while serving in both the House and the Senate. Bill has the knowledge, experience, and stamina to serve in these troubled times with COVID, wildfire planning and recovery, flooding, and on and on. Bill will work for Clackamas County along with the issues within his Senate district. There will be no learning curve for Bill. He's ready, willing, and able to do the job. Bill Kinnemer is absolutely the right person to send to Salem. Please appoint Bill Kinnemer. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we have one last hand raised. It's Tony Miller. We'll go ahead and try and get you back on here. It looks like you're connecting to audio. Looks like that might not be working, unfortunately. That is the last hand, Chair Smith, so I'm not sure if we want to give it a couple moments.
I think Mr. Miller's had ample opportunity. We've given, hopefully he understood that, and it's too bad he couldn't make it, but thank you, Christina. And thank you for all the public comments. My fellow commissioners and I deeply appreciate them. Now it is time for opening statements to our nominees. Again, you have 2 minutes for your statement. Please be aware of your time. Mr. Bates, please go ahead. Christine, just a minute. Christine, will you be timing this?
I will, and I'll raise my hand once we get to the 2 minute mark.
Okay.
I'll try not to interrupt
anywhere. Steve Bates, would you please proceed?
Thank you. Chair Smith, Vice Chair Bethel, and commissioners. For the record, I'm Steve Bates of Boring. In 1972, I was the youngest Rotarian in the world.
Wow.
Back then, Rotary was under a different set of rules. To be a member, you had to be a professional. At the age of 19, I was. I owned Steve's Shell Service in Laverne, California. I'm also the youngest Shell dealer in the history of Shell Oil Company. I didn't aspire to be the youngest Shell dealer or Rotarian. I only aspired to own my own business and serve my community. I wasn't looking for a title then, and I'm not looking for a title now. I'm looking for an opportunity to serve. At the age of 19, almost 50 years ago, I negotiated a business loan, hired a staff, and operated my own business. The aspiration to own a business at such a young age came from within. I always have had a drive to reach for and exceed goals. Each of my business experiences involved helping and serving others. This is the reason for a successful 40-year business career. I have lived the American dream, and I'm grateful for God's blessings. That drive is also the reason for 10 years of service and achievements for my community in Boring, and subsequently the veterans community. I did not personally benefit from any of these achievements, but these achievements were done for others. These achievements were done for others, efforts were for my neighbors and for others. This is the true definition of service. During my life's journey, as I gained age and wisdom, my personal motto has evolved. Today, my motto is faith, family, community, service. I'm here today asking for you to send me to Salem so I can serve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Mr. Kennemer, please go ahead.
Thank you, commissioners, and thank you for this special appointment session today. These are very turbulent times in our legislature, our state, and our nation. And these difficult times, these very difficult times, they're a key factor in my decision to seek this appointment. I have a record of experience and success in the legislative process, 10 years in the House, 10 years in the Senate, and 16 in the minority. My record of successful bipartisan effectiveness and working across the aisle as well within the aisle for common good is well established. I have a history of strong community representation and involvement and solid constituent work. As a former Clackamas County Commissioner, I know this county well, and I've read through and support your 2021 Clackamas County legislative agenda. I'm a clinical psychologist by trade, and I believe in win-win solutions. That's where you give a little bit to come to a common ground, something that's terribly missing right now. I think the best predictor is future behavior, and I cherish our Oregon and our Clackamas County. These are very special places and need to stay that way. I've got experience. I already know many of the legislators, and I have a history of success. I'm eager and ready to go. In conclusion, my friends often chide me. The legislature needs a good psychologist. But I'm hoping I can do something. My campaign slogan now and across the years is experience, proven, and trusted. So I ask for your support and for your vote. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kennemer. Mr. Blee, please go ahead.
Thank you for performing this important duty and for many of you spending time with me before this meeting. Most of you know all three of us well, which probably makes your decision harder, not easier. I consider both Bill and Steve friends. I have supported each in their campaigns and have put up countless signs for them, as well as for many of you. To be fair, probably more for Bill since he's campaigned for more years, as you just heard. Frankly, I don't think that you can make a bad decision given your choices of nominees today. I have been humbled by the testimony today and the confidence the PCPs showed by quickly nominating me for this position. I was copied on many of the letters of support that you have received from business owners and colleagues, nonprofit organizations and groups, activists and PCPs, past elected officials and candidates, and at least 2 current senators that I hope to work with in Salem. The comments and encouragement that I have received has made this process both memorable and much easier than I expected. As my father noted in his last speech, we are here to help other people. In business, I have been able to impact tens to hundreds of people. With nonprofit organizations and partisan politics, I've been able to impact hundreds to thousands of families. As a senator, I would have the potential to make a difference for a much larger number of people and influence the future of our state. Tony Miller, who kept trying to get on, was Alan's chief of staff for the last 5 years. He has endorsed me and has agreed to become my chief of staff, if appointed, and help accelerate this transition. I ask for your consideration and your vote to appoint me as Senator Alan Olson's successor for SD 20. Thank you.
Thank you for that, Mr. Lee. We will now move into our Q&A period. All candidates will have 2 minutes to answer the questions. Clerk Terwilliger will keep the time. The first question will be posed by Marion County Commissioner Danielle Bethel. In order, answers for this question will be provided by Mr. Bates, then Mr. Kinnemer, and then Mr. Lee. Commissioner Bethel, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chair Smith. Working to rebuild wildfire-ravaged communities is a Marion County priority. How would you best help us with this effort?
Mr. Bates, you're up.
My turn.
Yes, sir, it is.
Thank you. Well, understanding some of the difficulties experienced by Marion County residents up the river, I understand that the fires were so hot, they actually melted septic systems. And that is really a problem because there are a lot of requirements about replacing septic systems. So one of the things that I would be looking at to help is make sure that there is a bill or a law passed to allow some of the land use requirements that are required by the state to be relaxed, to allow these people to go ahead and reconstruct their septic system so that they can rebuild their homes. That's one of the problems. And of course, there are many other problems, and a lot of them are land use related. I haven't studied a lot of it, but I've read some of the articles about some of the difficulties, even carrying away the rubble. I understand has been a difficult time because there are rules about how they can take solid waste and haul it away, and sometimes they can't haul it away because they don't have the right permits and whatnot. So I would gladly help Marion County with legislation and actually advocate for changes in legislation, at least temporary changes in the land use laws, to allow immediate relief for these people who have suffered so badly.
Thank you. Mr. Kinnemer, it's your turn.
Thank you. You know, I think wildfire recovery is one of the key issues before the legislature. And actually, if I can, I'd suggest also that Clackamas County might want to re-implement its defensible space program, which is a way that you create shelter areas around these buildings and protect them from all the fire and fuel kinds of possibilities that come from wildfires. And I think that would also be one of the things that I'm looking at if I go to the legislature. This will be a key priority. These people have suffered and they need considerable help to get back in. Steve just mentioned a whole bunch of those things, but you know, part of that is also funding, and we're going to need some state funding, and we're going to need it expedited because these people are out of their homes right now. And I have some experience when I was a kid. We lost our house to a fire. And I know how devastating it is. I think when it comes from the heart, it even makes more sense. And I'm eager to get to work on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Lee, it's your turn.
Commissioner Bethel, thank you for this question. It's not just Marion County, it's also Clackamas. During the fire, we all saw it. In Boring, we could barely see across the street. I have a farm and I had the strangest animals you've ever seen. Not only a donkey, a huge cow named Norman, and a bunch of horses on my property because they had to be moved from Molalla and from Estacada. This is a big problem because it does tie to funding, as Bill mentioned, where we don't have a lot of money sitting around right now, but this has to be a priority for the legislature because it is for our counties. Until we can rebuild, first remove all the debris, which is going very, very slowly. We can't get the insurance companies to pay for the damage until it can be rebuilt. So getting the debris taken off the land, cleared, because there is hazardous substances there, then we can start rebuilding those properties. The regulations that are tied to this have to be reduced. If you remember, Carl Boshi from one of the TV stations went in and was able to help stop a number of the regulations that were stopping them from cleaning their land and rebuilding. I'm committed to work with the Senate, the House, and with each of the counties, which I think is very important because we are really in partnership on this. The legislature will provide the funds, but of course the counties are the providers of the services. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee, and all the candidates, and thank you, Commissioner Bethel. The second question will be posed by Clackamas County Commissioner Martha Schrader. In order, answers for this question will be provided by Mr. Kennemer, then Mr. Lee, then Mr. Bates. Commissioner Schrader, please go ahead.
Commissioner Schrader, you're on mute.
I just unmuted. All right. Counties provide a broad array of essential public services such as behavioral health, public safety, elections, transportation, disaster management, and housing. Many of these are shared services, meaning that they are provided by both the state and the county jointly. It is vital that we are working closely together to deliver efficient and effective services. Yet we are increasingly seeing state elected officials treat counties as a special interest group rather than as a state partner. What would be your approach to coordination and collaboration between levels of government?
Mr. Kennemer, you're up first.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. You know, part of it is, as a Clackamas County Commissioner, I've found I kind of wear two hats when I get down to city. And that's really important. You know, I think one part of that in being a partner is supporting the Clackamas County agenda. You know, the transportation issues, a lot of these are key things that we, as both in the legislature and at the county commission, need to be team members on. I also think that there are a lot of other ways that we can partner with each other, coordinating on healthcare, housing, all of these kinds of issues. Homelessness is a huge problem that we have, and we have to come to terms because it's so rampant around the state. It's not just a county or a city issue, it's a statewide issue. So I think I have a history of being a team player, and that's what I'd like to continue. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kennemer. Mr. Lee, it's your turn.
Thank you. Thank you, Martha. Yeah, the state legislature and county governments must work together in coordination and calibration and collaboration. The state provides the funding, as I just mentioned, but the county really provides the services. The county knows best what resources are needed and where they need to be provided. Let's face it, few people in Salem know the difference between Milwaukee and Estacada, and they're very different places. I'm committed to work with our counties, both Marion and Clackamas County, not as a special interest group, but as a partner that you are, to meet the needs of our constituents. I will support your priorities and the things that you feel need to be done first and foremost. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Bates, you're up.
There. Thank you very much for that question. Understanding the Constitution of the state of Oregon, counties were formed to be the delivery system for state services. I would have the highest regard for counties as the senator, and I would be actually defending the actions of the counties because of the fact that the Constitution set things up in the manner to where the counties were the delivery system. I've worked with the Association of Oregon Counties. on several issues, primarily the Vietnam War Memorial on the Oregon State Capitol grounds, but I've learned to have a great deal of respect for their Veterans Committee, as well as their other committees that actually have endorsing legislation and making sure that the counties are protected when it comes to some of these bills coming through. One of the bills that Senator Olson and I were working on was to increase the property tax exemption of the wounded warriors, our wounded veterans. And we involved the Association of Oregon Counties with respect in that manner. We weren't able to get the bill through. We got it through the Senate, but we weren't able to get it through the House. But I am open to discuss any and every problem that the counties have in regards to status with any state agency as a senator, because the counties are very, very important to the structure of our state. Thank you.
Thank you, candidates. The third question will be posed by Marion County Commissioner Colm Willis. In order of answers for this question will be Mr. Lee, then Mr. Bates, and then Mr. Kennemer. Commissioner Willis, would you please ask the question?
Hey, please explain your experience and approach working with local government officials to resolve issues.
Mr. Lee, you're up.
Short and sweet question. Thank you, Colm. As you all know, I've been very involved in the political arena for some time. And that really started with helping elect nonpartisan candidates. That'd be city councils, water boards, school boards, and mayors. I've worked very closely with many, many candidates by trying to understand their integrity, their personality, and their ability to work to get things done. I love football. I believe in moving the ball 10 yards at a time down the field. I don't throw Hail Marys, and I don't like politicians that throw Hail Marys. I believe that working both with the local governments, the county governments, and the state governments is critical. We're all on the same team. Whether there's an R or D behind your name, we have to get the job done for our constituents. Listening is important. In business and in politics, I don't think I hear enough people listening and being respectful of each other's views. So my approach is to listen, is to ask the hard questions and then make the decision that's most appropriate and rational. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lee. Mr. Bates, you're up next.
Thank you. That's a very good question, Commissioner Willis. As the chair of the Boring Community Planning Organization, I was very active in negotiating issues. We had problems with ODOT. ODOT was actually going to close down access for our Boring residents to Highway 26 at 2 different points, which would cause our residents to have to drive as much as 5 miles out of their way in order to get home. So we actually had hearings here in Boring, invited ODOT and other agencies. Multnomah County and Clackamas County were involved. And we actually came to a resolution where ODOT actually backed away from their plan, and they actually took the money that they were going to use and they spent it over in Multnomah County. But the other issue that we addressed here in Boring was the fact that TriMet, our public transit service, was giving us very poor service. We were getting token service, but paying full price. Over a period of a year, we had meetings, we talked with TriMet, we talked with the state legislature, and we had several meetings. And finally, through the petition process, we were able to remove Boring from TriMet because TriMet wasn't going to give us the service that we were paying for. As a result, our businesses in Boring are saving $750,000 a year because they're not paying a tax for a service we weren't getting. I think my time might be up. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Mr. Kennemer, it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This is a good question for me. I spent 12 years of my life in Clackamas, in the Clackamas County and the Board of Commissioners. And I guess there are a lot of things about that. You know, it was a time when I really learned about how extensive the needs are. I remember I'd been a state rep before, and when I got to county commissioner, it was a whole new ballgame and a whole new set of issues and broad issues, and they were in my backyard. I think a number of different things. You know, I served on JPAC because transportation is one of the most critical issues for local governments and frankly also for our state. I also worked on the Willamette Legacy Project. You know, our historic places need to be very special and we need to preserve them. And also, I've worked as a team member all along, been a partner. I remember back, speaking of Boring, when we worked on getting disabled transportation out to Boring with TriMet. There are lots of different ways you can partner, but I know about it. I think the other side of that is I have a habit and pattern of staying in touch and being accessible. So I'm as close as a phone call or an email, and I'm eager to get to work, and I think I'll be a great partner. Thank you.
Thank you all. And thank you, Commissioner Willis. The fourth and final question will be posed by Clackamas County Commissioner Mark Scholl. In order, answers for the questions will be provided by Mr. Kennemer, then Mr. Bates, then Mr. Lee. Commissioner Scholl, please go ahead.
Senate District 20 is unique because it includes urban cities like Oregon City and Wilsonville, rural cities including Estacada and Canby, and a significant rural unincorporated area. What do you consider to be the biggest long-term challenges for the district, and how would you choose to balance the legislative priorities of such a diverse district?
Mr. Kennemer, it's your turn.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I appreciate the question. You know, I think one of the things about when I served here was how very different urban and rural needs are. And in fact, that same splits in the legislature. And if we're not careful, the urban area tends to get the attention and the rural less. I think, you know, we need to work on transportation systems and improve that. We need to reach out and have community involvement. You know, when I was at the county, I was involved with the mayor's, the monthly meeting of the mayors, and that was very helpful. But we needed to reach out in other ways. You know, it reminds me of the legislature where we have 23% are Republicans, and there's a need to form coalitions, and that's how we become successful, is when we work together and we listen to the needs. I have a history of going out to Estacada and our outlying areas and being acquainted with those folks and working with them as well as our urban folks. I think that's the kind of leadership and responsive representation that we need, and I'm eager to fill that role. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Bates, it's your turn.
Thank you. The urban-rural divide has always been a subject over the past several years whenever I ran for county commissioner. One of the biggest problems that we have in Clackamas County in particular, and Marion County might have some of the similar difficulties, is congestion on state highways in Clackamas and Marion counties. I actually established an agenda, things that I wanted to work on that could be bipartisan if I was appointed senator. And one of those things is working with ODOT and trying to get more STIP money so that the strategic transportation improvement projects that Clackamas County has on that big long list get prioritized and actually slipped into some bills so that Clackamas County can move forward with some of these problems. The Sunrise Corridor, which goes through Senate District 20, has been promised to us almost 35 years ago, and we've only got a short section of it done. We need phase 2, and we need phase 2 to be funded quickly so that the people of Damascus and Boring don't have to spend an hour to travel from Clackamas to Sandy. Law enforcement in the rural areas is a big problem. Of course, in the urban areas, law enforcement is present, but there's a lot of issues with the county sheriff's office out here in the hinterlands where we're not getting the coverage that we should. We need to make sure that our county sheriffs all around the state are properly funded by state mandates or for state mandates. In other words, some of the county sheriffs are doing a lot of things that are mandated by the state, but they're not getting any funding for it. We need to make sure that the county sheriffs are funded appropriately. And then finally, for the urban areas, homelessness is a problem. And one of the areas that I want to work on is a statewide policy for mental health. Mental health is a root cause of homelessness, and we need to start addressing the root causes, not just trying to put a Band-Aid on homelessness by just building a few buildings or buying a hotel to put them in. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Mr. Lee.
Thank you. Clackamas County is a pretty unique place, and it represents America as a whole. The urban-rural divide is something we talk about across the nation, across our state, and SD20 particularly. Yes, we have urban centers like Milwaukee. We have very rural areas like Barton, right? I live in Boring, Oregon. Yes, it's a place, not a state of mind. But when we start looking at the urban-rural divide, we have to look at a lot of things that are different. Fire suppression in Milwaukee is totally different than fire suppression in Estacada. Looking at the urban growth boundary and how we're now required to have a 50-year reserve, in many ways doesn't make sense at all in certain communities. I right now am living in an urban, in a 50-year growth area for the urban. Well, everyone here has 5 acres and we have horses, and I don't see a whole lot of apartments going up at any time. Law enforcement, as Steve mentioned, is critical in the rural areas. If you call a sheriff today in Boring, or as my daughter has to do up on the mountain, you're looking at an hour plus before they'll even call you back, let alone show up. So looking at how these different priorities happen is again why the state Senate really can only help fund and help guide the counties in their efforts to put the needs and the resources where they need to be. But I will be a big proponent and a loud voice for rural America and for rural Clackamas County and for the rural parts of SD20. Thank you.
Thank you all. This concludes the question and answer period. It is now time for closing statements. To our nominees, again, you have 2 minutes with your statement. Clerk Terwilliger will keep the time. We will go in alphabetical order. Mr. Bates, please proceed with your statement.
Chair Smith, Vice Chair Bethel, and Commissioners, I received the most votes for this nomination, and I received the endorsement of former Senator Alan Olson. He wants me to replace him. I'm grateful to the PCPs who voted for me. The overwhelming 59.88% vote cannot be ignored. The closest vote getter was 9 points behind. In some circles, this margin of victory is considered a landslide. Senate District 20 knows me, and I know Senate District 20. In a countywide election, I carried 75% of the precincts in Senate District 20. I have to agree with Senator Olson, who said Steve Bates is a good fit for the district. I was the only candidate to publish an impressive list of endorsements that included Democrats as well as Republicans. I identified that I have relationships in both chambers of the legislature on both sides of the aisle. I was the only candidate of the 10 with a published agenda. I was the only candidate that talked about the reality of needing a bipartisan approach. I've spent a lot of time in Salem attending meetings, testifying, and establishing relationships. Over half of the pieces of legislation introduced on my behalf were passed unanimously, showing bipartisanship. I intend to be of service to both the Marion County Commission and the Clackamas County Commission. In particular, I wish to support issues such as community college funding, the Willamette Falls Legacy Project, replacing the Clackamas County Courthouse, and reclaiming the Willamette Falls locks to provide a navigable waterway from Portland to Salem. Finally, I'm not a placeholder. I'm not seeking a title. I wish to serve. I ask for your vote so that I may do so. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Bates. Mr. Kennemer, please proceed with your statement.
Thank you, Madam Chair and Commissioners. Thank you for doing this process. And, you know, it's good to sometimes sit back and think about these things. You know, I have the distinction of lots of experience. But I guess as we come down to it, you know, it's not only knowledge and experience, but it's what you're going to do. And I'm thinking, you know, there were some things that need to be done. Some of them are at the state, some of them are in the cooperation. For example, the distribution of COVID vaccines. We need to expedite that. And we need to get busy and reopen our businesses and our schools, for heaven's sakes. And another thing that's coming up, reapportionment. We need to make sure that Clackamas County doesn't get gerrymandered into a weak position and get what I call Portlandized. We also need to deal with this wildfires. These are things that are on our plates. And locally, you know, we need to do things like Willamette Falls locks, the Sunrise Corridor, some improvements on widening of 205, and deal with this epidemic and housing crisis. I think that I'm the one who can pull these together. I have the ability to have the cooperation and the kind of conciliatory attitude that brings people together in a win-win. And that's the thing that we desperately need in the legislature right now. People who can work with both sides, people who can find common ground, and people who aren't going to throw bombs, but make suggestions. Thank you so very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kennemer. Mr. Lee, please proceed with your statement.
Thank you for the previous questions and this transparent process. I believe that it's been both informative for you and our constituents. If selected, I will go to Salem with a unique set of experiences and perspective. As a business owner, I have signed the front, not just the back, of many checks. In 2001, I had to lay off 35 people whose families depended upon my company. During this pandemic, I have helped many small businesses to pivot their operations and customer focus so that they can survive and even thrive in this new reality. We must and can open our state safely. Our children and small businesses are being devastated. It has been almost a year. We now know much more about COVID and how to open our schools, restaurants, and businesses safely. We cannot wait another year or even months. The costs to our society are too high. My father taught me many things. He was the only three-time mayor of San Mateo, a very liberal city. He was a conservative, former career Marine, a business leader, and someone who never lost an election. He coined the San Mateo way. We can disagree without being disagreeable, which is sorely lacking in our country and our state today. I'm committed to try and bring that same spirit to the Senate. Wouldn't it be nice if we could listen to each other's point of view and, if necessary, agree to disagree without being disagreeable? Again, I humbly ask for your vote to appoint me as Allen's successor for the SD20 Senate seat. Thank you.
Thank you all for your very good closing statements. It is at this point we can either take a short recess or go right into deliberations. I ask the commissioners, do you want to continue? If there's anyone who needs a recess, please indicate.
Commissioner Smith or Chair Smith, I'd like to take a 3-minute recess, please.
Yes, I'm going to ask that we take a 5-minute recess.
5 minutes.
Thank you. I think everybody is present, right, Christina? Okay, we're going to begin deliberations in a minute, but again, I want to go over how this process works. The order of deliberations and comments will be alphabetical, but the Marion County Vice Chair and I will speak last. After comments are made by all commissioners, I will call for a vote. The votes will be made in alphabetical order, ending with with the vice chair and myself. As provided by the Secretary of State, each Clackamas County Commissioner will have 21 votes, and each Marion County Commissioner will have 0.33 votes. The votes are weighted to reflect the share of voters or electors in House District 52 living in each county. The votes will be tallied and recorded. The state law says that a plurality is needed to appoint. So keep that in mind. It's not a majority that's needed, but a plurality. The person who gets the most votes will be appointed. If no one receives a plurality, that is, if two or more candidates are tied in votes, then I will call for another vote at that time. We will keep doing this until there is a winner. I may call for an additional deliberations if a plurality does not emerge. Are there any questions about this? And with that, let's get to the deliberations. We'll start with Commissioner Daniel Bethel. Commissioner Bethel.
I would like to thank everybody for their time. I think you provided excellent feedback to your questions and good input on your beginning and ending comments. And with that, I have nothing else to give.
Thank you, Commissioner Bethel. And I really appreciate the Marion County Commissioners showing up for this. It shows how unique our partnership is. Commissioner Sonia Fisher, you're next.
Chair Smith, wow, this was great. I have so appreciated this process. I've enjoyed that we've received a lot of emails. I've enjoyed reading those. I've really enjoyed my time talking with all three candidates outside of this process. I know that Steve knows that I've called him as a commissioner multiple times in moments of needing information and support, and have so appreciated his understanding of the community and just his honesty and forthright approach, and it's just wonderful. And of course, Bill Kennemer, I don't know if Bill remembers this, but back when I was organizing the Young Republicans and the Young Democrats at Warner Pacific College, he came to campus. And so I've had a relationship with Bill for, gosh, how old am I? I don't even want to say how long it's been. It's been over 30 years, Bill. That's kind of scary. Yeah. So, and John, oh my gosh, how could we have not have been friends through all these years? I know that we've met a couple times, but we really established a relationship. I've so enjoyed our conversations, and I just think we have such riches before us today. And I have a little confession to make. I was on the phone last night calling other politicians, just saying, oh my gosh, you know, what do you know about these guys? Is there anything I need to know? And so much of the feedback from your comrades is their quality, all quality. And we really got to see that today. So I appreciate all of you. And I think if I were having to cast my vote right now, but I could be persuaded, so I'm not going to lock in on this, but I'll just say that we often vote, and it's true in politics, with our own interest. And my interest, of course, as a Clackamas County Commissioner, is the most effective voice for us in Clackamas County. And although I think all three of you would be excellent, I think Bill's experience as a former county commissioner just puts him over the a little bit stronger. And that's kind of where I'm leaning, but I'm interested in hearing from my other colleagues, because I could be persuaded for sure. So with that, I will yield the rest of my time.
Thank you, Commissioner Fisher. And sometimes it's the hardest to go first. So you were pretty brave. Commissioner Savas, it's your turn.
Well, thank you, Chair. I am just so impressed with the slate that the party has put forth to replace the candidates, or replace Senator Olson's seat. I know all three of you. I am just admire the hard work you've all done. You are all very intelligent. You are very astute. Your resumes are all great. The fact that you are here today and taking the initiative to be involved in the community and bettering our state and our county speaks volumes. I'm just very impressed. Each of you have had great accomplishments in your life, great accomplishments in the community. And I know what those accomplishments are. It is very difficult. It's very, very challenging. You know, if either of you were elected, you'd be elected in November, and you would have November and December and January really to prepare for something new. And this probably is more for the folks that haven't been elected to a seat of this nature. And here we are in February, it's February 1st, and things are fast moving in legislature. There isn't much time. And I know that what I've learned, not as a legislator, but a county commissioner, that things move so very, very quickly in the legislature. There's so many bills out there that you have to be on your toes. I do know, and I've learned that relationships and understanding the system and knowing how these bills come and go and knowing when to hold them and knowing when to fold them and being quick on your feet is key. So with that, I, like my colleague, Commissioner Fisher, can be swayed as well. I'd like to hear the comments from others, but I'm inclined because of the short time. I think that those relationships and that experience is key. And Mr. Kennemer, your experience and your resume is it's hard to beat in this pressing time. So that's where I'm kind of leaning. But I too, like Commissioner Fisher said, I can be swayed. I would just like to hear what my other colleagues feel as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Savas. Commissioner Schrader, you're up next.
Yeah, well, I know all three of you in many, many ways. Bill Kennemer basically taught me how to be a commissioner. And sometimes he gave me some pretty stern lessons. I learned well from him. And I also had an opportunity to serve with him in the legislature for a short period of time because I had Senate District 20 before Alan did. And the good news is that Alan continued the work with veterans that we had started in the 2009 session. So that's a piece that's very, very important to me. But Commissioner Kennemer, excuse me, not commissioner anymore, but my friend Bill Kennemer really, I do think as well, I'm going to echo what my two colleagues said, has the experience and the ability to really know the rather complicated process down there. That being said, Mr. Bates has done a phenomenal job with veterans issues. And I've seen him down personally at the Association of Oregon Counties, lobbying for veterans and actually working very hard on those issues. And I wanted to let Mr. Bates know how much I've appreciated that and how much I honor the fact that he's worked so hard on Vietnam Memorial for our veterans here in the state of Oregon. So thank you for that, Mr. Bates. John Lee and I know each other for a very long time because we helped start the Pacific Northwest Defense Coalition together. Remember, those were the days, John, when you helped me out quite a bit because you made it clear to a number of people that even though I'm the other side of the aisle, that I was very, very business friendly and kept that front and center with all the decisions that I would make. But right now, given the experience and longevity, I'm inclined towards Commissioner Kennemer as well. So, or Bill Kennemer, I'm sorry, past Commissioner Kennemer, past Chair Kennemer. Thank you, Chair Smith.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader,
right,
for your fine comments. Commissioner Scholl.
Yes, good afternoon. And thank you, gentlemen, for your devotion to duty and your willingness to serve yet again. Whoever is appointed in the current political environment, the next 2 years will be a legislative, mental, and physical challenge. Endurance, tenacity, drive may well be as important as a legislative and elected experience. Any one of the three men being considered today would make a fine and effective senator. I have tremendous respect for each one of them, for their character and values, and for their many decades of devotion to the people and issues of Clackamas County and the state. All three are respected across this county and in Salem. In reading all the material today, I noted the high number of precinct committee people throughout the county who supported Stephen Bates. Mr. Bates, like the other candidates, has a record of tenacity and activism in introducing and pushing through legislation. Most of all, which he did while not being an elected official. He has been a citizen activist, servant of his community, the county, and the state. Mr. Kennemer and Mr. Lee's years in government and their decades of experience are more than impressive. These men have been put in the breach for years, decades, worked for the county, the state. Their service cannot be overemphasized or appreciated enough. They've been called on the people time and time again to serve. All three men would bring good judgment and wisdom to the legislature. This vote today is not an easy decision for me. I also note that Senator Olson has endorsed Mr. Bates. At this moment in time, as difficult as this is, and as much as I respect the friendship of all three of these men, at this moment, I think I'm looking at Stephen Bates. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Scholl. Commissioner Willis, you're up.
Okay. I have to say, well, so I think any of the three of you would do a great job. Mr. Bates, I don't know you as well as either John or Bill, but I look forward to getting to know you a little bit better here in the future. I know you've been involved, but I guess north of the river, so I haven't gotten to get to know you as well. Both you, John, and Bill, I've worked with, and I know that you both have just a heart for service, and I really appreciate that about you both. Bill, I want you to know the only thing that's holding me back is you didn't reach out and ask me for my vote. You're the only one of the three, and I think it was because we've known each other for so long, and we've worked together so well. And I just want to say there's been some comments today that I think are important, and I think I look at things a little bit different. You do have a lot of experience, Bill, and you do have good relationships. But I don't always think of that as necessarily a good thing. I think there are people in public life that have a lot of experience and good relationships and don't do the right thing. But I think in your case, that's not the case. And so it's not just that you have experience, it's the right kind of experience. It's that when the hard decisions have been in front of you in the state legislature, you got to work and you figured it out. And it's not that you have relationships, it's in my interactions with you, you don't use people. You treat people as individuals with dignity, and I really appreciate that. And especially for me, you know, the right to life of vulnerable people is really important. And sometimes working on those issues can require a lot of technical work and expertise. And so I appreciate the work that you've done in the legislature on those issues. John, I also really have liked working with you, and I know that you've put the hours in for years and years and years, and that's really something. You know, it's easy to talk a good game. It's another thing to show up day after day for years on end and actually put the work in. So I'd say that's sort of where I've been going back and forth. But I think I am leaning towards you, Bill, on this vote because of my experience working on some of these technical legislative issues with you in the past, on life issues. But yeah, I think I'm also open as well to what other people think.
Thank you, Commissioner Willis. I appreciate that. I'm going to make a few comments and then indicate my selection. I want to thank the Republican Committee of Clackamas County for sending us three outstanding individuals of whom I know well, whom have helped me personally. And I will always be grateful and thankful for your participation, not just in my career, but in the participation in Clackamas County for the greater good as a whole. And that means a lot. I really do. You know, I served in the legislature. I served in the legislature when we did a reapportionment. And looking back to 2001, that was probably the hardest public service task I have ever performed. So much is at stake. I won't even go into the details of that. And I look at all of your qualifications. Any one of you could serve in the Senate and I would be proud. But when I look at Bill's career, he served in 2 sessions with reapportionment. And for me and for Clackamas County has experienced huge amount of growth. We will probably have the 6th congressional district sweep through the middle of us, quite possibly. I can't predict. In Clackamas County, because of our growth, we now have some of the highest wages in the state, and we have the highest increase of home prices of any county, any jurisdiction in the United States, of which I'm not proud of because it goes to housing affordability. So some could say that Clackamas County is now the richest county in Oregon, which I find that totally amazing. And because of reapportionment, because of the vaccine distribution that Mr. Kennemer mentioned, and because keeping Clackamas County as Clackamas County is so important to me since I was born in Oregon City and I am a 4th generation Clackamas County resident. He mentioned housing prices, locks, and wildfires. I will throw my vote towards Mr. Kennemer. And at this point, I'm going to ask for Clerk Terwilliger to please call the poll.
Okay, we'll start with Commissioner Sonia Fisher.
I'll vote for Bill Kennemer.
Okay, Commissioner Paul Savis.
Bill Kennemer.
Commissioner Martha Schrader. Oh, you're on mute, Commissioner Schrader.
Mr. Kennemer.
Commissioner Mark Scholl.
Stephen Bates.
Commissioner Colm Willis.
Mr. Kennemer.
Vice Chair Danielle Bethel.
Mr. Kinnemer.
And Chair Tootie Smith.
Mr. Kennemer, and at this point, I will ask for a motion for the unanimous support of Bill Kennemer as our next senator for Senate District 20.
So moved.
Moved by
Seconded.
Paul Savis, and who is the second?
Commissioner Shaw.
Commissioner Scholl seconds that. We have a motion on the table. Christina, please call the poll.
Okay, Commissioner Sonia Fisher.
Aye.
Commissioner Paul Savis.
Aye.
Commissioner Martha Schrader.
Aye.
Commissioner Mark Scholl.
Aye.
Commissioner Colm Willis.
Aye.
Vice Chair Danielle Bethel.
Aye.
And Chair Tootie Smith.
Aye. Congratulations to Bill Kennemer as our next senator. Any concluding comments by any commissioner? You have the floor.
Chair Smith.
Yes.
Just want to express to everyone, this has been a very difficult decision for me.
Yeah.
Extremely difficult. And I really appreciate the acknowledgements that many of you have made in recognition of Mr. Lee and Mr. Bates and their community work. Outstanding, brilliant people that have been involved in the community. And I just want to tell you all from the bottom of my heart, just when very, very difficult. And I just can't express how difficult it is. And so I encourage you to stay involved, and I want to thank you for being involved. Bill, congratulations. You better get working.
Commissioner Schrader, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I just want to echo what Paul said. This was very hard on me because all of these men have been friends and I've worked with all of them closely. I loved working with John on multiple issues and he's always been a good friend. And I want to congratulate Commissioner Kennemer, and I know that Mr. Bates will continue his hard work for veterans.
Thank you, Commissioner Schrader. Commissioner Bethel, you have your hand up.
I do. I just want to say thank you for allowing us the chance to participate in this process. This is my first experience as recently elected to a county commissioner seat that I have enjoyed reading, that which feels like hundreds of emails that have come in over the last week for each one of you in different ways. I don't know any of the candidates that stepped up for this role, so I look forward to actually getting to know each of you in the service that you provide to your communities. I myself am a Rotarian, and I find that to be a very valuable investment of service. So, Mr. Bates, I hope to visit your Rotary soon. And Mr. Kinnemer, I really look forward to speaking with you about wildfire recovery in Marion County and getting to work very swiftly to make sure our residents are cared for. Congratulations.
Any other comments by commissioners where I don't see a hand? Well, I will conclude in saying, Bill, we're here to help you be successful. Don't hesitate to call on us at any time. I'm sure Marion County thinks the same way. On behalf of the Board of Clackamas County Commissioners and Marion County Commissioners, I'd like to congratulate formerly Bill Kennemer on his appointment to the Oregon Senate. I'd like to thank all those residents in Clackamas and Marion counties for watching over Zoom, YouTube, or the Clackamas County Government channel. It is only through resident and stakeholder involvement that we can collectively work to best represent you. So please don't be strangers to our meetings. With that, ladies and gentlemen, we are adjourned.